Hi everyone, so today we're going to learn about why the scientific method is so important. Slides. So many times humans actually make decisions or come to conclusions based on intuition, common sense, but a lot of times we also rely on other authority figures. Sometimes those authority figures are actually experts in the field, but there's also other times where we just rely on maybe a famous person, a celebrity telling us or endorsing a product. So they're authority figures in the sense that we like them and look up to them, and therefore we like what they like. Scientists, on the other hand, use a scientific method, and they're using it because it's evidence-based, it's standardized, and it's objective in coming to conclusions. So a lot of times in research, we differentiate between basic and applied research. So basic research, we test a hypothesis. Usually it's a very basic question. So for that research, it's really a small part of the piece of the puzzle, but we need it to answer bigger questions. When we try to come up with solutions to real problems, that's typically referred to as applied research. And a lot of times, applied research relies on basic research to actually develop their research. So it's basically testing what the basic research has found in a more applied setting. Both of those types of research are needed, right? They work hand in hand, and they're really relying on one another because they both do different things and try to answer a question in the end. And then, of course, we also sometimes use the scientific method to answer practical questions in everyday life and make decisions and being more critical consumers. So the scientific method is used to minimize prejudice, and we also want to avoid to rely too much on anecdotal information, but we really want to rely on hard evidence. As you can see in this image, right, the scientific method is kind of an ongoing process. So it's not that you do one experiment and that will answer the question, but rather it's a process that keeps going. A lot of times what we actually see is that over time, theories change. So they're modified over time. Sometimes they're even discarded and replaced by new ones. So again, it's not something where we just do one study and that's the answer. A lot of times we don't actually really come up with a theory unless there's many pieces of evidence that really point towards one thing. So really want to have many studies showing the same thing using different methodologies, but you're still coming to the same conclusion to really come up with a theory and to feel more confident that something is correct. And in the end, really research doesn't prove anything, it just provides supporting evidence for something. But it's important to know that it's not just doing one study and being done, but it's really this ongoing process of revising and refining our theories. So the scientific method is, of course, not only for scientists, but also for everyday life. And there's a lot of occupations where people actually rely on other people doing research in a field. And then those people can actually read about other people's research. Obviously, to be able to understand what other people have done, you need to have a really solid understanding of the scientific method and research methods to be able to critically evaluate their research and even to understand it. So really, obviously the scientific method is used by researchers, but it's also for a lot of people actually to learn new information that maybe they themselves haven't conducted, but it's for them to understand what's going on, so kind of to stay up to date on the most current research. And then last but not least, of course, having a good and solid understanding of the scientific method and research methods is really helping you to become a more critical consumer of everyday information in the media, navigating, just even buying things because you're so influenced by commercials. So for all these things, you actually need a good understanding of the scientific method. So it's obviously for researchers, but then also for people that actually consume other people's research, and it can also be helpful for everyday life.